The restaurant fell silent as Mark Davidson wiped away a tear, staring at the single candle flickering on his untouched slice of cake. 3 identical little girls watched from across the diner, their matching blue dresses and curious eyes fixed on the lonely man celebrating his 40th birthday with no one but his own reflection in the window. What happened next would change all their lives forever. If this story of unexpected connection and healing touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more real-life stories that remind us of the power of human kindness. Mark hadn't planned on celebrating his birthday at all. The past year had been the hardest of his life, losing his wife Sarah to cancer, learning to raise their 8-year-old son Ethan alone, and trying to keep their small photography business afloat while grief threatened to drown them both. The birthday dinner had been Ethan's idea, but a last-minute flu had left his son feverish at home with a neighbor watching over him. Mark had almost cancelled, but Ethan had insisted through sniffles and coughs that his dad deserved something special today. "Promise you'll still go, Dad," Ethan had pleaded. "Get the chocolate cake from Rosie's diner like Mom used to get for you. Take a picture so I can see." So here he was, at their family's favorite diner, staring at a chocolate cake that tasted like cardboard in his mouth. The waitress, not Rosie, who had known them for years, but someone new, had stuck a candle in it without asking, probably assuming from his wedding ring that someone would be joining him. Mark couldn't bring himself to take it off, even after 14 months. Across the diner, Triplet girls sat with their mother, a harried-looking woman who kept checking her phone while the girls colored on their placemats. They were about Ethan's age, with identical chestnut braids and freckles scattered across their noses. Mark noticed them glancing his way occasionally, whispering among themselves. Children had become harder to be around since Sarah died. Their innocent questions about where Ethan's mom was could reduce him to tears in seconds. The waitress returned with his check. "All done with the birthday celebration?" Mark nodded, not trusting his voice. He'd promised Ethan he'd eat the cake, but after 2 bites, the lump in his throat made it impossible to continue. "Excuse me," a small voice said beside him. Mark looked down to find one of the triplets standing by his table, her sisters hovering a few feet behind. "Is it really your birthday?" Mark cleared his throat. "Yes, it is." "Where's your family?" another triplet asked, stepping forward. "My son is sick at home," Mark explained, surprised at how steady his voice sounded. The girls exchanged glances before the third one, seemingly the boldest, stepped forward. "Our dad never comes to our birthdays anymore. He lives in Arizona now with his new family." Mark's heart clenched. "I'm sorry to hear that." The first girl leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Would you pretend to be our dad? Just for a little while? We haven't had a dad at dinner in 2 years." The request hit Mark like a physical blow. He glanced toward their mother, who was now arguing with someone on the phone, completely oblivious to her daughter's whereabouts. "I don't think your mom would." "Please," the second triplet pleaded. "We'll be really good. We just want to remember what it's like." Before Mark could respond, the girl's mother looked up, her face flushing with embarrassment when she spotted her daughters at his table. She hurried over, phone still pressed to her ear. "Girls. I'm so sorry," she said to Mark, covering the phone's microphone. "They know better than to bother strangers. Come back to the table right now." "They're not bothering me," Mark said, surprising himself. "I'm actually." "It's his birthday and he's all alone," the boldest triplet interrupted. "His son is sick at home." The woman's face softened slightly. "I'm still very sorry. Girls, say goodbye to the nice man." "Actually," Mark found himself saying, "I was going to ask if you'd like to join me. I have this whole cake, and it seems a shame to waste it." The words tumbled out before he could stop them, as if Sarah was guiding them from wherever she was now. The woman hesitated, then spoke quickly into her phone. "I'll call you back." She tucked it into her purse and extended her hand. "I'm Jennifer. These are my daughters, Lily, Rose, and Violet. The flower girls, Mark smiled. I'm Mark. We're not really supposed to talk to strangers, Lily, the first triplet, said with a mischievous smile. But Mom says it's okay if she's here. Jennifer looked embarrassed. I'm sorry about what they asked you. Their father. She trailed off, glancing at the girls. No explanation needed, Mark said. My late wife and I always taught our son that families come in all different forms. A flash of understanding crossed Jennifer's face. I'm sorry for your loss. The girls climbed into the booth beside Mark, their earlier shyness forgotten. Rose, the middle triplet by 2 minutes, pointed to his cake. You didn't make a wish yet. The candle's almost gone. Mark looked down at the flickering flame, now just a stub of wax. What would he wish for? For the pain to stop? For Sarah to somehow come back? For Ethan to smile again without that shadow behind his eyes? You have to close your eyes when you wish, Violet instructed seriously. Otherwise it doesn't count. Mark closed his eyes, feeling foolish but strangely comforted by these 3 little strangers. He wished, not for the impossible return of what he'd lost, but for the strength to build something new from the ashes of his old life. Then he blew out the candle. The girls clapped enthusiastically, and for the first time in 14 months, Mark felt a genuine smile spread across his face. What did you wish for? Lily asked. He can't tell you, Jennifer said, sliding into the booth across from them. Or it won't come true. That's okay, Mark said. I think this one might come true anyway. As the evening progressed, Mark learned that Jennifer was a nurse working night shifts at the local hospital. The girls were 8, the same age as Ethan, and in 3rd grade at Oakwood Elementary, just across town from Ethan's school. Jennifer had been raising them alone since their father left when they were 6, moving across the country to start a new family with a woman he'd met online. The first year was the hardest, Jennifer confided while the girls were distracted by the dessert menu the waitress had brought over. I kept thinking I'd failed them somehow. I know that feeling, Mark admitted. Every time Ethan cries for his mom, I feel like I should have done something more, something different. The doctors said there was nothing anyone could have done, but you still wonder, Jennifer finished. I understand. There was something comforting about talking to someone who understood loss, even if their experiences were different. Mark found himself telling Jennifer about Sarah, about their photography business that he was struggling to maintain, about Ethan's nightmares and his own sleepless nights. You should meet Ethan, Mark said suddenly. All of you. He doesn't have many friends since, well, kids don't always know what to say to the boy whose mom died. We know what to say, Violet piped up, apparently having been listening all along. We could tell him about our dad. Not everyone has all the regular parts of a family. Jennifer looked uncertain. We wouldn't want to impose. It wouldn't be an imposition, Mark insisted. Ethan loves the park by the lake. Maybe this weekend, if he's feeling better. Before Jennifer could respond, Rose gasped dramatically. Mom! We forgot to sing Happy Birthday. Dad always says a birthday isn't complete without the song. A shadow crossed Jennifer's face at the mention of their father, but she quickly recovered. You're right, Rose. Should we sing for Mr. Mark? And so, in the middle of Rosie's diner, 3 little girls and their mother sang Happy Birthday to a man they'd met just an hour before. Other diners smiled and joined in, and the waitress brought over a fresh slice of cake on the house. Mark felt something crack open inside him, not the raw wound of grief, but something else. A door that had been sealed shut for 14 months, now creaking open just enough to let in a sliver of light. When it was time to leave, Mark insisted on paying for their meals despite Jennifer's protests. As they walked to the parking lot, Lily slipped her small hand into his. Thank you for being our pretend dad tonight, she whispered. Mark knelt down to her level. Thank you for being my pretend family. It was the best birthday present I could have asked for. Jennifer scribbled her number on a receipt. "For the park this weekend," she said. "If you and Ethan are still interested." Mark nodded, carefully folding the paper into his wallet. "We are." As he drove home, Mark realized he was smiling. He couldn't wait to tell Ethan about the triplets who had adopted him for an evening, about their invitation to the park, about the way the simple act of sharing his birthday cake had somehow made the day bearable. When he arrived home, he found Ethan asleep on the couch, a homemade birthday card clutched in his hand. The neighbor reported that his fever had broken, and he'd insisted on waiting up for his dad but had fallen asleep just 20 minutes ago. Mark gently woke his son. "Hey, buddy. I'm home." Ethan's eyes fluttered open. "Did you get the cake?" "I did. And something else happened too." Mark showed Ethan the pictures he'd taken of the triplets and their impromptu birthday celebration. "You made friends on your birthday?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with wonder. "We made friends," Mark corrected. "They want to meet you this weekend at the lake park." For the first time in months, Ethan's smile reached his eyes. "Really? Kids who want to be my friends? Really? And they're triplets, 3 girls who look exactly alike. Cool." Ethan exclaimed, then his face grew serious. "Dad? I think Mom would be happy you weren't alone on your birthday." Mark pulled his son into a hug, blinking back tears. "I think so too, buddy." That night, Mark slept through until morning for the first time since Sarah died. The weekend arrived with perfect early autumn weather, crisp air, golden sunshine, and leaves just beginning to turn. Ethan was nervous as they approached the playground, clutching his father's hand tightly. "What if they don't like me?" he whispered. "They'll love you," Mark assured him. "Just be yourself." They spotted Jennifer sitting on a bench while the girls climbed on the jungle gym. When Violet saw them approaching, she let out a shout that alerted her sisters, and all 3 came running. "You came!" Lily exclaimed. "Is this your son?" Rose asked, studying Ethan with undisguised curiosity. "I'm Ethan," he said shyly. "Are you really all the same person 3 times?" The girls dissolved into giggles, and just like that, the ice was broken. Within minutes, Ethan was chasing the triplets around the playground while Mark joined Jennifer on the bench. "He seems like a wonderful boy," Jennifer said, watching the children play. "He is. Sarah would be so proud of how brave he's been." Mark hesitated. "Thank you for this. It's been a long time since I've seen him this happy." "Thank you," Jennifer countered. "The girls haven't stopped talking about birthday cake dad all week." Mark laughed. "Is that what they're calling me?" "It's better than some of the names they've called their actual father," Jennifer said with a wry smile. As the weeks passed, their park meetings became a regular occurrence. Sometimes they'd bring picnics, other times, they'd go for ice cream afterward. Ethan blossomed in the company of the triplets, who treated him like the brother they'd never had. Mark found himself looking forward to these outings more than anything else in his week, and not just because of how happy they made Ethan. Jennifer was easy to talk to. She understood grief and single parenthood in ways his well-meaning friends and family couldn't. She didn't offer platitudes or tell him it was time to move on. Instead, she listened, shared her own struggles, and somehow made him feel less alone in his journey. One evening, after the children had exhausted themselves playing tag, Jennifer turned to Mark with a serious expression. "The girls' school is having a father-daughter dance next month," she said hesitantly. "They've never been able to go before, and they asked if you might take them." Mark was stunned. "Me? But I'm not." "I know," Jennifer interrupted. "And if it's too much, I completely understand. They've just grown so attached to you, Anne." "I'd be honored," Mark said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. "But only if you're comfortable with it." Jennifer's relief was palpable. "More than comfortable. Grateful, actually." That night, Mark found himself staring at Sarah's photograph beside their bed. "Is this okay?" he whispered to her image. "Am I betraying you by caring about them?" As always, Sarah's smile offered no answers, but for the first time, Mark felt a sense of peace rather than pain when he looked at her. He could almost hear her voice. "Love is never a betrayal, Mark. Love is how we heal." The father-daughter dance became a flurry of preparation. Mark took the triplets shopping for dresses, enduring the curious glances of salespeople who clearly wondered about his relationship to the identical girls calling him Mr. Mark instead of Dad. Jennifer helped Ethan pick out a new tie to match the girls' dresses for the pre-dance dinner they'd planned at Mark's house. On the night of the dance, Mark stood in front of his mirror adjusting his tie, a knot of anxiety in his stomach. What if the girls were embarrassed by him? What if other parents asked questions he couldn't answer? "You look handsome, Dad," Ethan said from the doorway. Mark smiled at his son. "Thanks, buddy. Are you sure you're okay with me taking the girls to this dance?" Ethan nodded solemnly. "Mom would want you to help them. She always said everyone deserves to be happy." The doorbell rang, and Ethan raced to answer it. The triplets burst in, resplendent in matching purple dresses with their hair styled identically. Jennifer followed, carrying a camera. "The girls wanted you to have this," she said, handing Mark a small box. Inside were 3 boutonnieres, tiny purple flowers that matched the girls' dresses. "We made them ourselves," Lily announced proudly. "With Mom's help," Rose added. "So everyone will know you belong with us," Violet finished. Mark knelt down to their level, his throat tight with emotion. "These are perfect. Thank you." Jennifer pinned the flowers to his lapel while the girls watched with solemn approval. Then Mark presented each of them with a corsage of white roses accented with purple ribbons. "Every princess needs flowers for the ball," he said, carefully sliding them onto their wrists. After dinner and countless photos, it was time to leave for the dance. Ethan and Jennifer waved from the porch as Mark drove away with the triplets chattering excitedly in the back seat. The school gymnasium had been transformed with twinkling lights and paper streamers. As they entered, Mark felt the weight of curious stares, but the girls' excitement was contagious. They dragged him immediately to the dance floor, teaching him the moves to a popular song he'd never heard before. During a break in the music, a teacher approached them. "It's wonderful to see the flower girls here tonight," she said warmly. "They've been talking about this dance for weeks. We brought our friend Mr. Mark," Lily explained. "He's not our real dad, but he's better because he actually shows up." Mark felt his face flush, but the teacher just smiled knowingly. "Sometimes the family we choose is the most important kind," she said before moving on to greet other dancers. As the evening progressed, Mark noticed other single fathers, stepfathers, grandfathers, and uncles who had stepped in to give the girls in their lives this special night. He wasn't alone in his role as a stand-in, and somehow that knowledge made him feel part of something larger than himself. The DJ announced the last dance, a slow song for fathers and daughters. Mark hesitated, unsure how to dance with 3 girls at once, but they had it all planned out. They formed a circle around him, each holding one of his hands while joining their free hands together. "This is how we practiced with Mom," Rose explained as they swayed to the music. As the song ended, Mark